with every meeting we have, I have to hold the programme a little further away. When I'm on the tube, if I get somebody on the opposite side to hold the newspaper for me, that should be just about right. That's what we have these for. So I think resonance is something that we might have a little time to explore later, and I think it's perhaps something that unites the topics that we're going to be looking at now of sound and music, and also with education. I particularly like the idea of resonances connected with the sense of compassion that humanity is developing at the moment. Because for those of us who believe in an ether, then the actual human emotions, the higher human emotions of identification with another human being and their plight sends ripples through the ether, very much like a sound wave. And I believe there is an inner sound to compassion. But to explore actually the creative power of sound and what it can do to lift the spirit of the human being, how it can help it towards goodness, beauty and truth, I'm delighted that we've got a long-time co-worker and an associate of ours at the Lucis Trust and World Goodwill, Simon Marlow, to talk for us now. And his talk's going to be illustrated by music and followed by a small piece of music by somebody who's played for us at our Arcane School conference in the summer. And that was beautifully inspiring. And that's Emma Crossley, who's a freelance musician and plays periodically for orchestras like the BBC and the London Philharmonic. So without further ado, Simon and Emma. Thank you.
Got to find the right glasses. Well, thank you, Lawrence. Lawrence said to me, would you do something for this meeting? He said, you can do anything you want. So I thought and thought, and I thought, one sound, many notes. And this is a subject you could write a book about. So in 10 minutes, it's going to be a very reduced version. Some years ago, scientists announced that they had detected the deepest sound known so far in the universe. This is an ultra-low B-flat that appears to be emerging from pressure waves through a hot, thin gas that fills the Perseus cluster of galaxies. They're 250 million light years from the Earth. I said appears because surely it may be causative, the other way around, in fact. Could it be that the sound itself is bringing the cluster of galaxies into being? This is deep speculation. But to give you some idea of how low this ultra-low B-flat is, we will now ask Emma to play a B-flat almost 2 octaves above middle C on the piano, although she's going to play it on the violin. Now here's B-flat an octave lower. This latter note and its quality are characterized by the string on the violin vibrating at 466 cycles per second. The octave higher that she played first vibrated at twice that number, 932 cycles per second to be precise. Now here is B-flat 2 octaves below that at 233 cycles per second. The violin can't really go any lower, so you will have to imagine the B-flat below that at 114 cycles per second. Perhaps you can imagine it being played on a cello. 2 octaves lower, and you've reached almost the lowest note on the piano at 28.5 cycles per second. A double bass could play that. Another octave below that, and you're approaching the pitch of the lowest note that the human ear can hear, about 14.25 cycles per second. Now, here is where the creative imagination comes in, because we have to try and hear with our inner ear a further descent of 54 octaves, each one halving the number of cycles per second. Just 4 more octaves down, and the vibration is a bit less than 1 per second. But in our imagination, we have to descend in pitch another 49 times. Then we get to the frequency of this ultra-low B flat that we talked about at the beginning. The pressure waves are 30,000 light years across, and they have a period of oscillation of 40 million years. One cycle, a sine wave, every 40 million years. And it is this cosmic hum which is being sung now by the Perseus cluster of galaxies, and has been for an estimated 2.5 billion years. We have to ask ourselves if this sort of phenomenon is a rare occurrence in the universe. Well, I can't give you an answer scientifically, but my intuition is that, of course, we cannot confine this cosmic hum to just one galaxy. Don't all the myriads of galaxies in the universe have their own note that affirms their uniqueness and individuality within the vastness of the one life? And trying to stretch the imagination way beyond any conceivable limit, surely we must suppose that the one life which substands and is the basis of everything in the entire cosmos will also be generating a sound that holds all of creation in existence. So now let us try and go in the other direction, towards the smaller, if that is indeed a word we can use. What about solar systems? Or planets indeed? Surely they too are physical plain expressions of some unique and underlying sound. We are perhaps beginning to see that there might be some truth to Pythagoras' intuitional insight, which he verbalized into the well-known phrase, the music of the spheres. So now we must ask ourselves about the note of our own planet, the Earth. Can we imagine that there is here also a one basic creative sound, holding all life in coherent evolutionary livingness as it creates the multitude of forms that we see all around us and the different states of consciousness that we experience? For example, we can look at the changing geological structure of the planet and at the wonderful variety of the various kingdoms of nature, including, of course, the human. Surely these are all sounding their own succession of notes in response to the one basic sound of the planetary will. We can visualize that it is this which is driving the evolution of all life on Earth here forwards into some future of meaning and love in its deepest sense, and we're being called, really, to discover this. On an even smaller scale, from a human perspective, every person will have their own individual note. This expresses itself in the variety of spiritual insights, thoughts, emotions, physical activity that characterize all our lives. And in the aggregate of human lives, these will sometimes produce a beautiful melodic sequence, symbolically speaking, and at other times, of course, the tension of discord. Both of these fuel human progress, painfully at times and beautifully at other times. Indeed, at this particular point in history, we seem to be travelling forward rapidly from discord to harmony to a new discord, from crisis through resolution to a new crisis. And this comes about as consciousness struggles to conform to the as yet unknowable will or sound of our planetary life. In our highest moments, the best that we can come up with to describe this will is the building of right human relationships. In other words, love. One of the really good ways, I think, to understand this is through music. Unlike the notes of the cosmos, which are changing so slowly as to almost negate the sense of change at all, music speeds up the flow of change into something that gives meaning to the human psyche. It's all to do with relationship. The B-flat Emma played at the beginning can be described as a vibration of so many cycles per second, but the human perception of it is a sound of a particular pitch. The separate oscillations become synthesized into beauty, and it's here where the magic occurs. Let's try another note. Now, when Emma plays this note, it exists just in itself and has no relation to anything else. Then she plays another note. Because of the length of time between the two notes, and because I've been speaking in between them, we don't consciously recognize the relationship of them. But as soon as she plays them closer to each other, a pattern of relationships emerges in our consciousness, a fall, then a rising return to the first note. Here it is again, a bit quicker. Now a sense of purpose is beginning to appear, a progression in the relationship of the notes to each other, and faster still. And then, in the hands of a master musician, they magically unfold into a piece for unaccompanied violin by Bach. She will play two movements, and the second one is an exuberant dance, which we can think of as illustrating a more joyful and cooperative mode of living for humanity as a whole, and a goal to which we can all aspire. Brilliant. I'll go and clear out.
That was transcendental. Let's take the opportunity just for a few more moments now, as that music has had such an elevating effect. Once more, imagining ourselves on the mountaintop for a few moments of reflection and dwelling upon the inner sounds that we can collectively hear, as Simon spoke in terms of the music of the spheres. Because mountaintops really are natural steeples, and they do evoke the true religious spirit within. And when mountains are veiled by clouds, they perhaps remind us of the penetration that needs to take place by able minds in order to discover the mysteries of what lies beyond and within ourselves. But just as you can hear the sound of nature with something other than your ears when you're in nature and all is quiet with you as if at the top of a mountain, it's something that you can also hear at the high peak of meditation. And again, it's a sound of that small, deep sound within that sort of invites you to become part of nature's revelation. And looking at the mountain again as a symbol, we see that when we have a fall of snow, the idea of each individual snowflake, a point of geometrical perfection, six-sided, no two snowflakes apparently ever the same, although who actually knows that, I don't know, but geometrically perfect, and yet falling to create a temporary blanket of unity over a diverse landscape. And it's also true that from an energetic point of view, that every human being is such a work in process. We have 3 lower principles and 3 higher principles, and the idea is that these are evolving over time to become the perfected, one-pointed initiate. And we can imagine at that time when that perfection is throughout humanity, each one of us coming together, and that note of compassion and harmony and beauty just rippling across the whole of the human kingdom. What then will the creative power of sound enable us to do as one human race? So let's just take a few more moments, and then we'll sound the Om.